Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Spiritual Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Really excited to have you with me as we start off a new year. So, of course, this is going to be a fun one today. So, really looking forward to today, and really been looking forward to this session for some time. So, I want to welcome everybody here to this Spiritual Saturday session. And obviously also wish everybody a very happy 2021. I know a lot of people are very happy to see 2020 go away. Although it was whatever we want to call it, right? It was a year that was certainly very filled with many things we've never seen before, many challenges. At the end of the day, I think we're going to look back and say this was a year of a lot of growth for a lot of people. It was a situation where people were pushed into circumstances that they were not normal, or certainly we're not prepared for. A lot of people handled it very well. It also, one of the things it did for many people, and I think this is an important thing, and each person, of course, handled it differently, but it was something that really forced people to deal with issues, feelings, and emotions that they maybe perhaps had never dealt with before. And that, of course, is how we grow. And one of the things in life, as we know, unfortunately, as humans, is that we seem to grow through difficulty, through adversity, through these kinds of challenges, just kind of the way human nature is. We know that's the way it is. So I think for many of us, we maybe learned things about ourselves that we didn't know. Maybe we were able to overcome certain situations that we didn't think we could overcome. Certainly in many cases, you may have been in a circumstance where you had to deal with issues that maybe you had been avoiding. A lot of people were forced to be together, which in some cases was really good, in some cases was not so good. So really, again, it created situations where people had to do things that they had never done before. I know I spoke to a lot of people about the challenges of working from home, which was something that a lot of people had never done before. You know, for me, I've been working from home for about 20 years now. And of course, that said, I didn't go out and didn't see clients and didn't speak at events and do all those things. But I always had, worked at home, had an office at home, did a lot of consulting and calls. So I was really used to being home, and doing things like this, doing virtual events and webinars and calls. So I had been doing it for so many years. It wasn't really such a jolt to me, as other than the fact that a lot of things got canceled, and not seeing people was, of course, not as much fun. But again, for me, I was pretty prepared for it. I think a lot of people I spoke to who kind of do what I do, or in this world, we've been doing this for a long time, or certain people who had been working from home, they were more prepared. But there were many I spoke to who were just kind of like, wow, this is crazy. I never did this before. I had certain friends who were home and they had young kids. They didn't have a space. I was fortunate enough to always have a space where I could close my door and do my work. But they said I'm on the kitchen table trying to do work, and I got kids running around the house, and I never, kind of created a lot of challenges for many people. So again, everything creates different situations and opportunities. It really depends upon how we deal with them. And that, of course, is a lot of what 2020 was about. Also, 2020 was a year of seeing things clearly, which, of course, is the 2020 vision. We got to see a lot of things clearly. We got to see how the politicians handled this situation. We got to see corruption. We got to see greed. We got to see everything. We got to really see across the board all different things. You also got to know a lot of people in your life who maybe you were surprised. I know I was surprised, certainly at certain times, of how certain people saw the situation or how they dealt with it or what their beliefs were. So it kind of brought everything to the light to a large degree. So many things like that also came for us as we moved through this situation and as we move forward. So this is something that I think we will look back at, like I said, years from now and kind of say, wow, although it was a difficult year and it was a challenging year, I think it's going to be a year that sets a foundation for what is to come as we go forward. We're going to discuss a lot of this today as we move into this session. I just wanted to kind of lay that out for you before we get started. So let me give you my little quick overview before I do this. So I do a Spiritual Saturday webinar on the first Saturday of every month. It is 9 o'clock here. I'm in Southern California, 12 noon Eastern. Of course, we have people who always join us from different parts of the world, which is the great thing about technology. The sessions are all recorded, so I always record these, and I will send them out to everybody later on this afternoon as soon as we render it. And at the end, We do a Q&A, so there's 3 different ways you can ask a question. You notice there's a chat box if you're on the screen. If you're doing it in the webinar forum, you can see there's a chat box there. You can put a chat. There's also a question box if you want to put your question in privately. I will not use your last name, so don't worry. And you can also speak to me by phone. If you hit *2, at the end of the session, it will tell me that you want to raise your hand and you want to ask me a question directly. That's fine. Any one of those 3 are fine. So usually this call is for members of my Higher Ground membership, or people purchase this individually. But once a year, what I like to do in January, because kind of get us off to a good start, is do a free version of this call, just free out to the world so everybody can hear it. So when we're done with this, those of you who are live, great. Please I'll send this out. Feel free to share this audio with this link with your friends if you think people would benefit. So please feel free to do that. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about how the membership works, you can go to highergroundnow.com, highergroundnow.com. And when you go on there, this is a month-to-month, so there's no long-term commitment. And when you join, you'll also receive $1,200 in free gifts. So I have a lot of different programs that are already in there. There's a lot of content. There's all the Spiritual Saturdays. There's other sessions that I do. I also send out a weekly audio to everybody, audio email, just to kind of give you an update on what's going on. So that's how the membership works. You can try it for a month. If you don't like it, you can just jump out. Excuse me, there's no long-term commitment, as I said, to the membership. So just a quick overview of what we're going to do today. So as I said, I'll go through this. If you have a question at any point, you can feel free to put it in the chat or the question box. I'll get to it at the end. And then, like I said, if you want to ask me a question directly, you just hit *2 and it'll tell me that you want to speak to me. So I just like to give you that little kind of overview before we start. So before we go into each month, I have a different topic. I like to kind of just talk a little bit about what's happening in the world of energy, what's happening energetically, and what we can expect as we go forward. So the end of this month, actually a couple of days ago, we had the last full moon of 2020. It was actually on the 29th and 30th. You might have been feeling that one. I know I certainly did. So the energy coming in is very, very high right now, very strong, very high vibration. You might be feeling this for those of you who meditate or do this kind of work. I know for me, I get a lot of energy or action, as I like to say, in my crown and the top of my head. I had a lot of pressure on my crown, or a lot of swirliness or ear ringing. Vibration in your body. I know I had that a couple of nights where it kind of woke me up out of my sleep, or few situations where you're sleeping a lot, or maybe you can't sleep, kind of things where the energy's coming in and wakes you up and you can't sleep, with the ear ringing and all different things that are happening. So this is all part of us moving to a higher level of energy and awareness. So you may be feeling some of these things. You may also, as your body is removing dense energy, you could get some body aches. You could get like a runny nose or a little sore throat or things like that. Those are all signs that your body is removing dense energy and pulling energy out, so you could elevate up a little bit higher. So that's what we're all looking to do, especially as we come into this higher vibration of 2021 and where we're going to be going. So this month, we always have new moons and full moons. I just like to tell you about them because they affect me a lot, certain people more so than others, but they do have a lot to do with how the energy is moving. So the new moon we're going to have on January 13th. And a full moon on the 28th. So we're going to have a couple. We always have 2 a month. There are certain months where we have 3. I'll let you know about that as the year progresses. So we'll talk about how that works as in future calls and future webinars and how that works. So 2021, if you're a numerology buff, which I am, numbers, I love numbers because of the fact that numbers are the way we all communicate with different languages throughout the world, but we all use numbers the same way pretty much. So numbers are kind of that universal language. So 2021 is what's considered to be a number 5. So the way, if you're not familiar with numerology, the way it works is 2021, you take the number and you break it down to a single number. So you go 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 would equal a 5. And a 5, the number 5 is considered a year of change, the year of change, because 5 is right in the middle of the numerology chart. So numerology goes 1 to 9. So 5 is right in the middle. So the number 4, which we just came out of, is more of a no-nonsense kind of number, a little bit more of a rigid number, a little more of a practical, hard-working type number. It's a little more of that very serious, more practical year, which we certainly just came out of, right, in 2020. And the number 5 is a change year. So now all the things that happened that we experienced in 2020, we are going to see the changes coming this year and beyond. So 2021 is going to be a year of a lot of changes. So be ready. Now, this will be happening on a large scale, meaning across the world and globally and politically, which we're already seeing. But this will also be happening privately to you. You may see a lot of changes in your life, things that may be opportunities that come along, people who come in your life or come out. Maybe you're going to end up moving somewhere else or changing careers or different things. People are going to be entering your life, or sometimes people will come back into your life. A lot of changes. So just be open to change and be ready for different things, and be ready to move quickly and pivot, and don't get stuck in your head. So if something feels good, or all of a sudden you say, wow, I feel like, I should be going in this direction, I want you to go there. Don't be afraid to go there. Don't get stuck in your old ways of thinking. Be open to try different things and move in a new direction. That's going to be very important. We also, this year in May, we will have the 555 portal opening. Now, I'm just putting this on your radar screen a little bit early. We have portal openings all the time. Certain ones are more significant. This will be one of the biggies for 2021, will be in May. So May 5th, 2021 is 555. So that's where we're going to have a very powerful portal opening. So these first 4 months of this year are going to be getting us ready for that. That's early May. So gear yourself up for that one. Again, that's when we may see another jolt of many changes taking place right around that time. So that's going to be another strong time. And we're also going to see a shift of power, which is really why I wanted to focus on this topic today. And what I mean by shift of power is power in the way we see it, and the way we deal with it, and the way we move forward. So that's what we're going to start to see now. We're going to start to see a shift of power going away from the old energy that has been with us for thousands and thousands of years. I know a lot of people get caught up in what's happening now about the elites and the people have all this money and other people don't. This has been going on for thousands of years. This didn't just start last week. So understand that we're at a precipice right now. We are at a point where we're going to see big changes taking place and big shifts of power, but we want to make sure that we're aligned with the power the correct way so we can elevate and use that power for the overall good of everybody. And that's going to be one of the big shifts that takes place as we go forward here in 2021, is moving into this, what I think of more of as a me consciousness, a we consciousness, moving away from a me. We've been in a very isolated me type world. We've isolated ourselves. We've separated ourselves. We've done a lot of things that have created disruption. We are now going to move more into a we consciousness because we are all one energy. This is critically important that we move ourselves forward this way. We want to move forward understanding that we're all one. And if we don't see it that way, and we don't approach the world that way, and we don't approach our lives that way, we are going to create a lot of pain and suffering. And that's not what we want to do. But this is where we have been manipulated into by these dark forces, this small group of people trying to take over. And what is the one thing that they're going to do? Disrupt everyone, separate everyone, create all these problems. It's easier when you do that to control and manipulate people than when people are all together. So our job as people who are walking in the light is to pull together, not pull apart. So this is something I want you to focus on as you move into 2021. And even if you don't agree with somebody, that's okay. But again, we don't want to hold negative toward others, even if we don't agree with them. It's okay. They're allowed to have their own opinion. Maybe certain people you say, oh my God, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. I see things from a very different perspective than most people, but I understand that people have their own way of doing things. It's okay. And it's not my job to judge them. It's my job to put information out and try to help people potentially see things differently. If they choose not to, which a lot of people do, because they'd rather stay in the darkness, because going into the light creates a jolt in your system where you have to start seeing things differently. And if they choose to stay in darkness, that is their choice, right? There's nothing you can do. All you can do is put it out there. So that's what I want to do. That's what I want you to do. As we go out, we just want to help people elevate, and those who choose to, great, and those who choose not to, fine. That's where they're going in this lifetime. So let's just be cognizant and be compassionate to understand that everybody's got their own journey, and they're here to see things from their perspective. So today I want to talk to you about peaceful power. And what does that mean? We're going to talk about this, and we're going to get into this in detail. I'm working on this. This will be my next book. It'll be coming out later this year. And it's about how to create. I'm also working on a program as well, which I may have out before that, which is about how to create internal power and inner peace. And this is really where we're going. We're going into this new space of power, which is going to be very different than where we are right now. And I want to really today, which is the reason I wanted to do this topic to start the year, I want to really take you to a place of seeing things from a different perspective. And I want to ask you to be open to seeing things differently than we've all seen for the last 6,000 years. We've all been stuck in the same place for a long time. It's time for us to get unstuck and get out of it. So what I'm going to do here at the beginning is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here, a series of questions. And what I want you to do is later today, because I want to go through all this information, but later today, I want you to look at these questions. Like I said, this will also be recorded. You'll get this later. But I want you to write these questions down, and I want you to sit with it. And I want you to really sit with the feeling that you have about the questions I'm going to ask you. I don't want you to just kind of say, oh, yes or no. I want you to really feel it, and I want you to really understand it, because this is the way we are going to elevate. When we get deeper and we get down into our understanding and we get down into really knowing how we feel, this is when we start to transition to higher vibration, and that's where we're going. So that's what I want you to do. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions just to get us kind of started here, and then we'll get into it. So the first question is this: what is power to you? Now, this is going to come from many places in your belief system, what you think it is to be powerful. What did you learn growing up? What did you see in your household? What was your religious beliefs? All these different things, okay, are things that created what you saw power as, what you defined it as, and how you now see it in your own mind and in your own self. So what I want you to do is really kind of sit with this later today and just say, what is power? What does that mean to me? What does it really mean? And I don't mean from a mental perspective. I mean from an emotional perspective. What does it mean to have that feeling of power? What does that mean for you? And you have to be honest based on how you grew up and what you saw in your life and what you learned and what you experienced, because we all have our own experience and we all saw this in a different way. What was it like in your house? Who had power in your household? How was that translated to you? How did you see it? Was it a thing that you understood? Did you really get it? Did you not get it? So understanding and what power is to you is important. The next question is this: what happens when you have power? So this, again, becomes an important thing for us to understand, because we all have an attachment and a belief to what it means to have power. So what happens to you when you have it? What happens when you have power? What does that mean? Does that mean you're more responsible? Does that mean you have to do different things? What does it mean to you when you have power? And again, is it good or bad? You might say, wow, that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of pressure. That this is a very important thing for you to understand. Some people say, I want it so I could control situations. Again, that's something you may believe is true. So these are all, or are more secure, or whatever your belief system told you about having power. So I want you to think about that. So what happens when you have power? The next one is this: why would you want power? What is the reason? What is the reason to have it? Why do I want it? What's good about it? Or maybe you don't want it. Maybe you say, I don't want power. It's not something I want. It's not something that I'm looking for in my life. It's not something that I want to have in my life. So these are things that I want you. These are things to contemplate, to say, do I really want power? Is this something I want to have in my life? How do you feel? Again, it's about how you feel. And then, again, this is an important thing. It's not about what you think. It's about how you feel about it. And the last question I want to ask you is this: how do you gain power? This is a critical question for us, because we've been conditioned to believe you gain power through certain things. You gain it through money. You gain it through position. You gain it through birthright, right? Certain people are born into these powerful families or rich families. You gain it you gain power in different ways. So you have to look at yourself and say, how do I feel you get power? How do I feel you gain power? How does this happen? And this is, again, what people are trying to do, because they're looking at it and saying, if I can control things, if I can have more money, if I can control different things in people, then I can have power. This could also be in a relationship. If I feel I have the power in the relationship, why do I want that? It's not just about money. It's not just about position. It's about day-to-day power. We have a lot of people who manipulate relationships using energy to control that situation, right? So that is all part of having power. So power comes in many flavors. It's not just, oh, I have money, I have more power. It's about manipulation. It's about control. It's about all these different things that we've used. So what I'd like you to do is sit with these questions a little bit later today, really contemplate what it means to you. What does it mean to you to have power, and really go through these questions again and kind of take a look at them as far as what is power to you, what happens when you have power, why would you want power, and how do you gain power? Okay, so I want you to just think about those things and really roll them around a little bit in yourself so you could understand what's going on. So let's talk about the shift, and this is really what I wanted to focus on today, which is going to be internal power versus external power. So what we have been focused on pretty much as humans throughout time is what we would consider to be external power. So that anything external is outside of ourselves. So we look at it as, how do I gain external power? How do I get power? And this, of course, is something that we've seen throughout history, which is why we have so much violence. Because, again, if you go all the way back to ancient times, right, we always had wars and battles and fights because people trying to take over different areas or get into different spaces. So a lot of this is tied to the idea of control. So the idea of having power is the idea that I can control something. And how do I do that? I do that with my might. I do that with my money. I do that with my position. How do I control? So external power, the desire for this, is a very third-dimensional feeling. It's a very third-dimensional idea or concept, which is why you see, when you look at history and you see the Roman Empire and you see Napoleon and you see Hitler, what were they trying to do? They're trying to control people and larger areas because they felt like that gave them power. So that was the desire behind it, right? If I could control more, the Roman Empire wanted to keep getting bigger and bigger. As they got bigger, they had more control. This is the desire. They have to understand this, of course, is a negative desire because it is a fear-based desire, and it is negative to want to control other people. That is not a positive desire, but it is a desire that people want. It's something that they want because they feel they are more powerful in that space. Now, again, this is a physical, third-dimensional version of being powerful. Right, so this is how human beings are designed. We're designed to grab power. That's what we want to do. And how am I going to do that? How do I get power? Well, I have to take over. You see this in business. What do companies do? A company will try to put another company out of business. A company will try to absorb that company. Maybe they'll buy them out. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to try to open. I remember years ago, I was in a meeting. It was a long time ago when the bookstores were still very relevant. Right, and I was in a meeting with somebody from Borders Books. I was doing some training work with another client who was working with them, and we were in a meeting together. And it was back years ago. Of course, like I said, bookstores were a big thing. Borders, if you remember, Borders Books was a big bookstore. And we're sitting at the table, and we're talking about open bookstores and all this. And one of the women, I should say, who worked there, she said, "Oh, you would think that we're in literature, we're trying to help people get more information." And she said, "It is so ugly as far as who's trying to get what location and cutting the other ones out and trying to undercut them so they could get a location where the other one couldn't, or just get it." She said it was such an ugly business. And here we are thinking, oh, it's literature and it's books and it's people are trying to help each other. So again, the same thing happens in all business, right? This is what people are trying to do. They're trying to control. They're trying to get the upper hand. And it's all designed to go down that road of external power. Now, the other way we want to do it is we do this through force of will. This is force of will and manipulation is a very important way to gain power. So you may have this with people who again, right? Because people who want to control situations, we have this in families. My family, we had, the women of my family were very powerful. My dad passed when I was young. They kind of ran the show. They manipulated every circumstance and situation to get it the way they wanted it. It wasn't about everybody else. It was about how do I control the group. So this is happening at a micro level, at a family level. It's also happening in a government. It's happening in states. It's happening in countries. It's happening in businesses. People are all trying to gain this position, this power through force of will and manipulation. So they're not doing it for what we would call the greater good. They're doing it to get a better spot for themselves. They want to be ahead of you. This is part of what makes humans, a little difficult to deal with, because humans have that constant desire to move past the guy next to them. It's just kind of the way we are. And there are certain times when it really could be a positive thing, when you say, well, I'm trying to maybe invent something that's better, or trying to create something, even though so-and-so did this, I want to do this, maybe I could make it better. That's something that we do, but a lot of it is done through the force of will and manipulation. So look at people in your life who are manipulating circumstances, manipulating energy, manipulating other people to get what they want. This is all external power. This is all what people have been doing for years. Like I said, I work with corporations all the time. I do trainings in companies on a regular basis. I see the internal politics of the company, how one person is trying to position themselves to get to a certain spot by manipulating the situation, or making somebody else look bad, or trying to get past them where they were over here. So these are all things that people are doing on a regular basis. A lot of us, and look at yourself, maybe you're doing it, right? We have to be honest and say, is this something I'm doing myself? So the quest for this power, for this external power, has created the world we're in, right? So we're in a world of tremendous inequity, which is getting worse by the minute. We go back, even in this cycle of our lives of energy, even if we go back from the 60s to now, we see how the inequality, or the inequity of financial success has been so gigantic. It is just continuing to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So what's happening is, I want this power. I want to have everything. So this creates inequity. This creates separation. This creates suffering. Now, there's nothing wrong with being successful, and there's nothing wrong with having money. I'm not saying any of this, but what I'm saying to you is this desire to have it all. I want the whole pie. I don't want to give any out to anybody else. This is where we're going down a dark road, and this is what we're seeing. We've seen this politically. We have a country here in the U.S., and I'm going to speak for the country I live in. I know we have people in different parts of the world, and we have people fighting over passing bills because they're trying to get their thing into the bill. Instead of saying, just get the poor people the money, you've shut down everyone's businesses. You've created all this unemployment. The people didn't do this to themselves. The government decided this is what we want to do. Instead of just saying, hey, just help the people, we have seen government officials trying to say, oh, I want to slip this into the bill so I can get this on the back end. Again, this is not something that's helping us. We have to see this for what it is, the manipulation, this whole manipulation with the virus. It's been a complete manipulation, trying to get people to do things so they can control the population. This is the goal, people. This is the goal, that this is where these people are going. They're trying to control the population. Now, the bottom line is, if this was truly the way we are being positioned to believe it is, we would not be able to leave the house. Right? If this was the way they are positioning it, you should not be able to leave your house. Yet, the big box stores have never closed. The liquor stores have never closed. The government has remained open, and everyone's getting paid. Right? So we're watching things happen that are not making sense. I can go on an airplane. Right? I could go on an airplane and sit next to someone. People are going to say, oh, they have different air in the airplane. It doesn't matter. I'm sitting right next to you. That's not something I should be able to do. Although I have to stay 6 feet away from you. My wife is just showing me a picture. 6 feet away from you in the airport. Then I get on a plane and sit an inch away from you. It's crazy. Right? Then I'm watching last night, as I'm flipping around, young kids playing college basketball. How is that possible? How is it possible that you could allow young teenagers to play college basketball in the middle of this circumstance? If this is so deadly, and this is so scary, how could you say, yeah, I'm going to let my 18, 19-year-old kid go play college basketball? That's fine. And sweat all over each other. And you're going to say, oh, well, they're trying to quarantine. It doesn't matter. It makes no sense. Again, see, closing businesses. You're closing my restaurant, but I could go stand 2 inches away. I'm in Costco one day, and it's all crowded. Everybody's all next to each other. but I can't go and sit in a restaurant. Makes no sense. Why? Manipulation and control. External power is the goal. Do not forget it. Do not forget it for a second. If you do, I'm telling you now, you're going to be taken down a dark road. Now they're trying to vaccinate everybody because they want to get everybody with whatever is in this thing. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but what I read about it is a little scary. It's something that came out very quickly. Who knows where the ramifications of this? People are lining up to get it because they're pushing fear. Fear is the weapon, right? Fear is the weapon of external power. How do I scare you? I'll take your job away from you. I'll take your house away from you. Keep me in fear, and you can control me. And this is what we're going down. This is the road they're trying to take us down. So we cannot allow this to happen because we need to walk in the light. So your beliefs are also going to be a big issue. What you learned growing up, the beliefs that you have as a kid, the beliefs you had as you were growing up as a child, and again, thousands of years of this energy that we have been receiving. We've been watching this for thousands of years, over and over again. We could go all the way back. I'm a history buff. I can go back 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years, and you can see the progression of exactly how the same separation. People had money, they had slaves, people or had money, and people who worked on their farms were basically, if you don't do what I say, I'll starve you right off, I'll take you off my land, you won't be able to feed your family. This has been used forever. So understand, there are very deep-seated beliefs that we have. We've been conditioned to want external power because that's how we believe we get ahead. And of course, that desire has created all the pain that we are seeing right now. That desire that has been drilled into us, and it's nobody's fault, because the bottom line is we have been taught this since we're young. Be successful, get your piece of the pie, get your piece, and that's it. Don't worry about everybody else. This is the wrong road. So now it's time for us to start shifting to the internal power that we are going to create. So I'm going to give you some Yoda wisdom, okay? So the people, first of all, with external power, they're afraid. This is why this is getting so crazy and contentious, because the people who have the external power are seeing it slip away. As people are getting into the light, they're saying, oh my goodness, I may lose this. And they don't want to lose it because they've had it for generations. We've seen it for generations. You've seen families that hold external power year after year after year, and their wealth keeps growing and growing and growing, while the people under them, the people who work in their companies, the people who are involved with them are getting less and less and less. This is something they want to hold on to. So I'll give you a little bit of Yoda wisdom here, because I love the Star Wars, which is a very spiritual series, by the way, if you've watched it and really paid attention, which is the fear of loss is a path to the dark side. So this is where we have been positioned to be in a fear of loss all the time, right? We've been in a fear of losing something. So I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my position. I don't want to. So I'm going to be afraid. So keep me afraid. And if you keep me afraid, you take away my power. And that has been the goal of the dark side. That has been the goal of the small percentage of people who want to control everything. And it's time for us to start generating this power within ourselves and not being dependent on external forces, which is what has happened to us. Because what we don't realize, and what we are starting to realize now, is that we internally have the power to create what we want. But we have to step into that power, and that's how we're going to go forward. So now we're going to start to change the world and move the world to a different space. Because once I realize I don't need that external situation to create my own power and take care of myself, I no longer fear the dark side. I no longer have that fear of loss. It's kind of like any situation where people fear, a relationship ending or losing a job or whatever the case may be. And then you know what? When it happens to you, and then you say, I've been bankrupt twice by 30 years old. I've been, up and down a million different times. But the bottom line is I realize, hey, you know what? Whatever happens, I can handle it. Whatever happens, I will come out of it energetically at a higher place and move to the next level. Now, I had people that I spoke to, and I remember at different times when we had big crashes in the economy like 2001 and 2008, and of course now, who went through their whole lives and never lost a job. Always had a job, always were okay, always got their paycheck, didn't really think about any of these things. All of a sudden, their industry went away. If you're in travel, if you're in hotels, if you're in all these different industries that got tremendously impacted, Now it's all of a sudden, wow, this could happen to me. I didn't think that could happen. I was on the nice, smooth train, but the universe said, no, it's time for you to understand how everybody else is living and has lived in their lives. So now these people, oh my God, what will I do? I'd never been here before. So those of us who have been here before, we understand that this is not the end. The end is not, this is the beginning of a new time and a time for you to go forward. So one of the things, I love Gandhi, he's one of my favorites of all time, and I love this quote from him, which is, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. So the thing about Gandhi that was so amazing was Gandhi had such amazing power without having anything we would think you need to have power, right? So Gandhi didn't have money. Gandhi wasn't he had power in the fact that he was wanting to create positive change, but it wasn't about how we would see external power. And I remember reading about when he passed, and they said the man had nothing that we would consider necessary to have this power, yet he was so powerful. And why? Because it was coming from a different place. So I don't have to go out and take out a sword and cut your head off to have power. That's what we've learned, right? I don't have to have a hostile takeover your company. I don't have to put my competition out of business. This is not what it's about. In a gentle way, which is you shining your light, you shake the world. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be a revolutionary. You just have to hold your space. And when you hold your space, you become tremendously powerful. So this begins with shifting within yourself. So this is what it's all about. So really for all of us right now, this is a time of stepping into the light, stepping into your own power, which you don't need anything outside of yourself to have this internal power that I'm talking about. And this is where I want you to be. This is where I want you to live. Now, again, for many of us, this is a space that we have never lived in before because we've always been in a fear base. I'm afraid of losing something. I'm afraid of something happening to me. I'm afraid of whatever. These fears are making us weak and creating the desire for external power, which is what's weakening our energy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to shift, and we're going to make the shift from within ourselves. So what I want you to do is, how do we move into this? So first, understand that you don't need anything externally to have this power that we're talking about, this internal power. You don't need anything. You don't need anything from the outside world to have it. It is all from within. Now, understand something, and I want to be clear. When you have internal power, you will manifest what you desire externally. So it's an inverse of what we think about. We think of, let me get the money, then I'll get what I want. Well, let me get the power, let me get the position, then I'll get what I want. But I'm telling you, get yourself into this space, and then you'll create what you need. You'll create what you desire. You'll create whatever you have to take care of yourself. This is a feeling within you. This is not outside. You can't buy this at the store. You can't go down the block and get it. It has to come from within yourself. It's this feeling that you have, and it's tied to self-love. It's not tied to ego. It's tied to self-love. It's tied to you loving yourself. So this is going to be the positioning that you want to take as you go forward. As you elevate this energy within yourself, your ability to then manifest and create whatever you desire will be there for you. But you have to understand, I have to be willing to walk down a different road and give up the belief system that I've had and let go of the fear that I've been living with my entire life. And again, these are challenging things for us as humans, because these are things that have been in us and they're part of our DNA. And we all are fear-based because we couldn't be here in physical form if we were not living with some level of fear. So I want you to understand that we all need a little fear to keep ourselves in third dimension and keep ourselves in physical form. But on the other side of the coin, I need to diminish that to elevate myself and understand that, yes, well, I have a little fear. And listen, a little fear in third dimension is good because it also keeps us alive. It's a thing that keeps me from walking down the dark alley. It's a thing that keeps me from putting my hand in the stove, right? It is a little, so we want to balance it, but it's understanding it, how it works and how we balance it out. So how do we get there? What are some keys for creating internal power? So the first thing is, I always look at the greater good. Like, am I doing things that are for the greater good? Now understand, the greater good includes yourself. I'm not talking about being a martyr, and I'm not talking about being self-sacrificing. I'm talking about focusing on things that are for the greater good, including the greater good for you. What is best for you? And then look externally beyond that. Okay, what happens outside of me with this decision? But I want to make sure I'm okay. Now, I'm not doing it to hurt somebody else, but I also am not doing it to sacrifice myself. Again, this is important. It's a small variation, but it's an important thing to hold on to understand that the greater good includes you. The greater good is not about sacrificing yourself, right? The greater good is about not being a martyr. The greater good is about power within yourself. Also, you have to let go of attachments to the physical world. See, this is the one where, as humans, we struggle because a lot of us have become very attached to things in the physical world. This could be physical things like cars and jewelry and houses and things like that, but it could also be I'm attached to the identity. I'm attached to acting a certain way. I'm attached to being seen a certain way, right? I have these attachments to the physical world that I have to be a certain thing or look a certain way or act a certain way, and these are attachments that I don't want to have. So you want to look, and really one of the things I love to do, because I love to journal, is make a list and say, what are there any things that, what am I attached to? Are there any things that I'm attached to here in the physical world that I feel are very important for me to hold on to? What are things that you want to hold on to? Now, obviously, we want to hold on to our loved ones. If we have, we have certain people in our lives that we love, and we love doesn't mean we're attached. We could love people. We could love things. I could love something and enjoy something. Doesn't mean I'm attached, right? So I just want to be able to share that love, but not have the attachment, which creates, again, the fear, which is what I'm trying to get rid of, right? I love people. I could love everybody, but I don't want to have a fear of loss. I want to be able to express joy, and that expands my joy when I don't have fear of loss. All right. Also, especially this year, and hopefully it has happened a lot for a lot of people, which I know it has, is really letting go of what is not serving you. These are many things. This could be physical, getting rid of things that are in your house, cleansing stuff out. Maybe it's things you've been holding on to that you want to get rid of. Maybe it's relationships that are no longer working. Maybe it's where you're living and say, you know what, this is not working for me anymore. Whatever doesn't serve you, it is time to move on. It doesn't have to be a whole dramatic thing. It's more of a situation of saying, this does not serve me now. This relationship does not serve me. Living in this circumstance does not serve me. This job does not serve me. I'm not on purpose. Whatever it is that you feel is not serving you, you want to look at it and say, how do I move forward? Now, sometimes these are people, family members, or people you've known your whole life, but you realize this is no longer. Now, I don't want to say this in a way that it sounds negative as far as serving me for myself, but what I mean is it something that's elevating me, or is it something that is causing me distress? So this is an important part of moving forward, where I'm saying, okay, I still have this in my life because I feel obligation, but it is causing me distress. And if it's causing me distress, it's something I have to address one way or another. So that's important. And you want to start shifting to the focus of your own desires. And the real thing is receiving love and loving yourself. Because this is really the area that we struggle in. And this is the thing that stops us from being powerful, is just being able to receive love and give and receive love, and then love ourselves. Once we get into that space, everything changes. Because I don't need the external validation to just say, I can just love myself for who I am. I don't need to have a certain amount of money or be in a certain situation or be a mother or a father or have kids or do this or do that. I just can be myself. That's where you want to get. That's where you start to get into a very powerful space internally. Again, you see how little by little I'm letting go of anything that I'm holding on to that creates problems for me. Okay, so that's what I'm looking to do. Anything that creates, I think of it more as disruption. So we also want to be in that process, and I do this every day, where I'm always aligning my energy and removing negative energy. And I'm looking at this. As humans, you have to understand, we're living in a yin-yang world. So we've got positive, negative. It's happening all day long to us because that's the world we live in. So the idea that I'm never going to have a negative feeling or a negative thought is not happening, right? It's just, I mean, I sometimes I'll put on the news or as much as I don't do it that often, but even the small amount of time you put it on, you see hypocrisy, you see the way people are acting, you go into a little judgment. We all do it. I try very hard not to do it at all, but there are certain times that we're still human. Let's give ourselves a break here and understand that I may have, I may say I have to let that go, but boy, did that bother me. That's okay. So I'm constantly in that space of saying, let me let go of these negative feelings, even though I know they will continue to surface. But I want to be aware of them when they surface, and then I want to let them go gently. Gently. I don't have to do, it doesn't have to be a whole big thing. I don't have to blow myself up. It's just a gentle letting go. Wow, that really bothered me. I need to let that go. How do I or on the other side of it, I always say, how do I make it better? If I see something that bothers me, I may post something or put a video on my YouTube channel or do something that I feel I can put out some positive energy that will shift that a little bit. Whatever you could do on your side, again, it's the same thing. So you want to be in that constant, especially now, because here's what's happening. The energy is coming in so quickly, and the energy is elevating so fast that the faster we are able to adjust ourselves and get into this space, it's the faster that you'll be able to move forward. So the quicker I get things out of my system, the faster I'll be able to move forward and get things moving in a positive way. So I always go back to the old, if you're looking at the slides, I found a picture of an old radio. So when I was a kid, there was no digital. We didn't have any digital, equipment and things like that. We had the old radio with the dial. And I remember I'd be sitting outside in the backyard with the antenna up, and I'd be turning that dial back and forth. You were trying to get the station in the right way. I'm trying to get exactly the station so I wouldn't get any static and I could hear my music. And this is what's happening to us all day long now. So this is just happening faster because now because energy is moving so quickly. Again, it's moving quickly, so it's like this constant tuning in. Okay, wow, I had that negative feeling. Let me get rid of it. I had that negative thought. Let me get rid of it. I had that judgment. Let me get rid of it. Let me shift. Let me just keep doing it. So it's almost like all day long, I'm adjusting and moving at a higher speed. So it's one of those things where as you start moving your energy to a higher level of speed, what happens is you start to gain exponentially. Because now you start moving faster and faster. And as you move faster, you are able to move through obstacles much faster, much quicker. You're able to deal with the situation. Okay, I see what that is. Let me deal with it. Move on. I see what that is. Let it go. Move on. I see what's happening. I understand it. Let me deal with that feeling within myself. Move on. Retune. That's how you're going to live now. You have to live in that high speed because that's what's happening and that's what we're seeing. So as this energy comes at you, because the faster you resolve issues, the faster the universe is going to bring more issues to you because it's helping you elevate at a faster speed. So be prepared, but this only happens when you are aware and you're saying, wow, how did that feel? Why did that bother me? Let me deal with it and move on. I can't hold it. If I hold it, it's going to drive my vibration down and slow my energy. So it's like comes at you, deal with it, adjust. Comes at you, deal with it, adjust. So these are things that we want to work on. And we are now creating differently. I'm not looking outside. I'm creating from the inside out. So this is an important part. Internal power is internal. It is a feeling you have within yourself. It is not outside. I'm not looking to say, when I get that car, when I get that promotion, when I get that job, when I get that relationship, I will then feel better. It is not there. You know that everything is internal. So everything that you want in your life here in the physical, it doesn't matter because you're going to create it internally. So I shift myself to constantly looking inside. I'm never looking outside. Outside world is your report card. That's all it is. The outside world just tells you how you're doing. So if your life is in good shape, you say, oh, I'm doing pretty well. I'm okay. I'm healthy. Things are pretty good. That means my internal self is in pretty good shape. If your outside world is a big mess, or you have all conflict or all upset in your life, then your internal world is a big mess. So understand, it always reflects out. So your focus is internally. How do I adjust internally so that I can then create what I desire externally? right? It's a flip. So most of us have been taught the opposite, even though a lot of us know this. You've heard this before, but it's so ingrained in our brains and it's so ingrained in our lives that it's just the way we automatically respond. So it's like I have to override what I learned my whole life and bring myself back to a place where I'm going inside first. It takes time. It takes time to get yourself into that space. Now, a few last things before we end up our session. And again, I want to thank you so much, and I really appreciate you being here. And I'm really happy to have you here, and I'm really happy that you've taken some time with me. And I hope you will listen to this. And as I said, please share this with people that you know and love, or even people you don't like, because you want to help them out, right? That you don't like them because it's something that they're bringing up within you. But just so you know, it's one of those things. So anyway, I want to really kind of as we get into the end of this here, I want to really focus on something that I think is very important that we really bring to our awareness, which is separation is the enemy. Okay? I want you to understand this at the highest level of your being, because we are all one energy. Please do not forget it. I know we are here having this experience as individuals. We believe we are individuals. It is designed that way. We have our egos, we have our identities. But although we are having that experience, at the end of the day, we are all one energy. Please remember that. So any moment that you place negative towards somebody else, you are placing negativity toward yourself. We are watching what is happening in front of us, the manipulation, which is what? Separate people, Republicans and Democrats, all these different organizations, everybody fighting with each other. This is a designed manipulation by the dark side, right? I'm going to keep using Star Wars as a reference because it's true, because this is a designed manipulation. Separate the people, separate the people, separate the people, easier to control. We must understand that this is a critical time for us to love each other. I don't care who they are. I don't care if you think they're the worst person in the world. I'm not saying you have to like them. Understand something. You may not like everybody because we're people, right? There's people that I avoid. I love them, but I know I can't be around them because they cause me too much distress. But it doesn't mean I don't put negativity toward them. I don't hold contempt for them. I just hold on to love for them. But I realize that in this lifetime, because we are still having this physical experience, these people or certain people I need to stay away from. It doesn't mean I don't put hate toward them. The other part of it is us separating from each other when we all have the same common goal is what we don't want. And this is what we're seeing now. Through manipulation, through the idea of controlling us, through all these different things happening, this is how it is happening. So don't buy into it. Do not separate. Understand that, yes, you have your viewpoint, do what you feel is best, but do not hold negative towards others. As we do that, even though it's slight, you may say, well, that's just a slight thing, Joe. It's not a big deal. I'm just not going to hold hate towards somebody else. That's huge. You may not think it's huge, but it's huge, because the energy that you are now putting out there is energy of compassion as opposed to energy of hatred. You see the difference? Even though I don't agree with you. Listen, I watch a lot of these politicians, and I say, you know what? In another lifetime, I might have been a hitman that would wanted to kill all these people, because some of them can drive you to that point of frustration. In this lifetime, I didn't come with. I'm sure I had that lifetime. One point or another, I'm sure I did have that lifetime, because I don't have it in my energy field right now. But right now, what I'm saying is there are things that you will see that will make your head explode. Right? It's going to happen. It's part of what's going on. So it's okay. You're allowed to feel that, because it's bringing up feelings in you that are really driving you toward the feeling of what you truly know is important, which is compassion, and that we help each other. So that's where I want you to live. I know it's not easy every day, but try to live in that space as much as you can. Listen, we all go off the wagon, myself included. We all kind of go off the rails once in a while. There are certain things that happen that can be extraordinarily frustrating. Believe me when I tell you, we've all seen it, we've all experienced it. But the thing is, you have to really understand that we are all one, and do not allow us to be separated. If you allow yourself to be separated, then you're going to start to in effect, fragment and start falling apart. So hold that space. I know this is something that I keep trying to put out there because I want people to understand we're allowed to have different opinions. There are people who are my friends who I listen to them and I say, how are you seeing this world this way? But I have to have compassion because that is the way they see it. They are allowed to see it that way. And if that is the experience that they need to have, I must let them have it. It is not my job to force you, like I said earlier, through force of will, to give you my experience. My job is to put energy out there and positivity out there and ideas out there that people can say, hey, that's helping me wake up. If you don't, that's okay. Doesn't make it good or bad or right or wrong. So please keep that in mind as you go forward. You may not agree with somebody. You may not understand where they're coming from because you may say, I'm seeing it this way, which seems clear to you. It's not clear to everybody. It doesn't even mean that there's no right and wrong. Everyone must see it and go through their own experience. Honor that, and that's going to make your life a lot easier. So we're going into this fifth dimension. That's where we're going right now, this high fifth dimensional, 5D energy, whatever you want to call it. That's where we're going. The more time you spend working on that inside-out work that we're talking about here, the more time you will spend in this high vibration of energy, you will make your life a lot easier, even though we're going to go through challenging times this year because this is what it's about. This is about change. Change is not easy. Change is going to come with some bumps in the road. Hold your space. If you hold your space, and listen, we all have our days. That's why I think meditation is critical. For those of you who meditate, God bless you. For those of you who don't, you should start. Sit quietly every day because that's a great way to hold your space. It's something you want to do. Make sure you get a lot of rest because there's a lot of energy. You may be tired at certain times. You may feel like, wow, I need to get a break. Really nurture yourself right now because this is going to be an important thing to go 5D. A lot of fluids. I feel it as this energy is coming in high. I notice when I get up in the morning, I'm like so thirsty. I know what's happening. The energy is hot. Your body needs water. Your body needs fluids to keep itself going. Make sure you pay attention to what your body is telling you. Hey, maybe I shouldn't be eating this food. Maybe I should be shifting my diet. I should eat lighter. I know I do. We do here. We do shakes. We don't eat as much as we used to. We're very light eaters. We realize that the energy is not necessary to sustain this heavy eating, which we've done a lot here in the United States and made people sick. So understand, go with your body, listen to your body, hydrate yourself, but spend quiet time every day connecting. That is going to be your ticket to go into a higher place. So I always like to give you a little quick overview of the day before we end it. Again, if anyone has a question, please feel free to hit *2 or send your question in if you have one. I see a bunch who just came in, so I will jump to those in a moment. Again, if you want to speak to me, you can hit *2, but let me go over this. So again, clear any obstacles you have regarding power. Go back to those questions I asked earlier. Go through them, see how you feel. How will power feel? How will you feel when you have power? What is that going to feel like? Okay, for you, you want to give up those negative desires and attachments. Those are things we don't need. You want to shift to internal power, right? I want to shift to the inside. I'm not worried about the outside. I'm focusing on the inside. Deal with your fear of loss. This is a huge one because once you let go of fear of loss, you cannot imagine how powerful. When it happened for me, I couldn't believe the shift within myself because that shift is going to come from within you. And remember, separation is the enemy. Separation is what we don't want. As hard as this may be at certain times, we do not want separation. Now, I'm talking about energetically. You may not agree with people. You don't want to join their group. That's fine. Don't hold contempt and negativity toward them. Have compassion. And then you start creating inside out. Okay, that's what you want to do. Remember, keep going inside yourself. That is going to be the key. So don't forget, check out my YouTube channel. I always post videos up there. It's ashotofjoe.com, ashotofjoe.com, just like the coffee. Somebody gave me that a while back. So I'll tell you the story when it's actually in my video that you can see how I came up with that name, which actually I didn't. Somebody said it to me. But a couple of things before we go to questions, just so everybody, for those of you who have to go, for those of you who are not members, you're going to get an email link with the recording, so you'll be able to get that recording. Like I said, please feel free to share this with people you know and send it out to as many people as you like. That would be wonderful. It'll help people really who you feel would love to do that. For those of you who are members, this will be in the member area a little bit later. I'll send you out an email. You'll know it's there. Our next session will be on February 6th. That'll be our next Spiritual Saturday. My YouTube channel I just gave you, A Shot of Joe. Also, if you want to check out the membership, go to highergroundnow.com. And if you have any questions, you can email me, joe@joenunz.com. So it's joe@joenunz.com. If you're interested in anything, coaching, questions, anything, just let me know. I'll be happy to do that. So let me get to a couple of questions we have. My friend Alexis said, best call ever. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Alexis. I appreciate it. I'm receiving the love. See, I'm going to receive that love. So I have a question from Marcella. Very good talk today. Looking forward to the new program. My question is about this. Like in the movie The Insider with Jeffrey Wagland says, I told the truth, and Lowell Bergman says, it doesn't matter that you told the truth. Right now, with all the censorship, the truth is not enough. So I'm right, concluding that unless we have a high vibration along with the truth, it may not matter. Yeah, well, the truth, again, Marcella, is a relative thing, right? The truth is how we all see it. And some people think the truth is one way, and some people think the truth is another way. So when we have externals, like we have social media platforms, and we have the news, which is manipulating and only showing certain information, we need to go inside ourselves and elevate our energy. And as we do that, that's how the truth begins to spread from one person to another in an energetic manner. We don't even need technology, because what happens is the energy just starts going from one person to the other, and people start to wake up. So we're talking about magic here. We don't need any of this. I don't need Facebook. I don't need the internet. We use these tools because it's part of the world. Excuse me. But understand that as we keep elevating our vibration, automatically people light up and energy shifts, and everything else just takes care of itself. So don't worry about it. So Sherry, what is the dark side? I thought everything was love and there was no bad place. Are you saying that there is a person or group who's trying to control the world? Because this COVID and shut down businesses is not relegated to just one or two places. Yes. So what happens is this. When I say the dark side, here in the physical world, and we need to understand this because this is part of the experience we're having. Yes, there really is only love, but here in the physical world, we've created a dynamic where we have positive and negative energy, because this is how we have an emotional experience, right? So yes, there is actual negative energy, or what we would call evil or dark side, in this physical dimension that we live in, because that's part of our experience. So yes, there are people or groups trying to control the world in a negative way, which is part of the human experience that we are having. And the COVID is just a tool that they're using to manipulate people and create fear and control people. So does it, at the highest level of God, it does not exist because it's all love. But here in the physical dimension, there are positive and negative forces by design, because we came here to have this experience. Okay, we came here to have a physical experience. So a physical and emotional experience where we were going to feel negative and positive emotions. So because of that, yes, it exists here in this world, in this dimension of gravity. But once we cross over, once we're out of this, it doesn't exist. But here it does exist. It's part of our experience. So it's not good or bad. Really, it's not good or bad. It's just how we perceive it here in the physical world. And it's a great question. And it's a question that's hard to answer, because I think we wanted a definitive answer in life. And like I said, at the end of the day, everything is just love. But we did come here, chose to be here, by the way. We all chose to be here during this very special time. I know for some of us are saying, why did I choose to be here during this crazy time? But the bottom line is we chose to be here, and we're here to have this experience. So yes, there are going to be negative forces, because that's what this whole third dimension is all about. Positives and negatives. So this is really what it is. So don't overthink it. Just focus on the love within yourself, work from the inside out, and you'll start to really see shifts taking place. And that's really what it's all about for us, getting back to that place of knowing ourselves at the highest level and loving ourselves. So I want to thank everybody so much for being with me here today. I really appreciate all of your energy. I hope this was a great kickoff for you here for 2021, and we are ready for a blockbuster year of many changes and very high energy. So I'm sending everybody a lot of love, a lot of high energy. I want you to focus on what we're doing. Stay connected with me, please, if you like. I'm here to help. And again, you will get around people who are here to help you and love you. So love yourself, enjoy, and we will connect again very soon. Again, don't forget, you have the power within yourself.